So this question is a vocabulary question. So vocabulary questions are typically the first 4 or 5 questions of the reading and writing section. We can tell because, first of all, they're the first 4 or 5 questions. Second of all, there are always just single words, answer choices that are vocabulary words. The way that we answer these is not just by sound, right? So that's the first strategy. You're never just plugging the word in and seeing how it sounds. You really want to think about the definition, right? The meaning of these words. So we're going to read the passage and then think about what type of definition do I need in order to answer the question. I'm not of the type of tutor who suggests that you put your own word in, right? So a lot of tutors suggest that. I don't do that. I suggest, like, why spend the energy thinking about a brand new word when you have all the answers right in front of you? So let's get started so you can see exactly how I suggest that you do this. At the turn of the 20th century, Black residents of Richmond, Virginia, had few formal options for banking and other financial services. To prolong this situation, right, so I'm just adding in choice A. To prolong this situation, Maggie Lena Walker chartered the St. Luke Penny Savings Bank in 1903. So does that make sense? Because what does it mean to prolong? So to prolong means to make it longer. To make what situation longer? The situation of Black residents in Richmond, Virginia, having few formal options for banking. So would it make that situation longer if Maggie Walker created a penny savings bank in 1903? Well, let's continue to reading. The bank went on to provide home loans and savings opportunities to thousands of Black families over the following decades. That actually makes no sense, right? If Black residents had few formal options for banking, then by creating a bank that allowed Black families to bank, that would not prolong the situation of having few formal options for banking. So choice A is incorrect. Choice B, to rectify this situation. Now, to rectify means to correct it, right? So that would make sense, right? So the definition of the word rectify would mean to correct. So to correct the situation of Black residents having very few options, Maggie Walker created a bank where Black families could bank. So that, from a definition standpoint, makes sense. To retain the situation. So to retain is saying that she's going to continue the situation. No, that doesn't make any sense. She's not continuing it, right? She's not retaining the situation. To highlight the situation. No, she's correcting it, right? So all these are wrong. The definition we want is to correct it, which aligns with the word rectify, and that's why choice B is the correct answer. So again, you want to answer based upon meaning. Focus all of your energy on the meaning, not on how the word sounds in the blank. And you should be good. The only places where you should make mistakes here, potentially, is if you don't know what the word means. And there are strategies for that as well. One strategy is if, for instance, you did not know what the word rectify meant, then look at all the other words. If you know what all the other words mean, and you know that their definitions do not work in the blank, then you should choose the word that you don't know the definition for. Hopefully that makes logical sense. If you know that prolong, you know what prolong means, but you know that its definition does not work. You know what retain means, but you know its definition does not work. And you know what highlight means, but you know its definition does not work. You still end up having to choose rectify, even though you don't know its meaning, because it's the only word that is left over, right? So secondarily to that, there could be questions where there's multiple words that you don't know, right? So in that case, you may have to guess between the 2 words that you don't know, which no one wants to be in that situation, but at least you'd have an educated guess instead of a random guess. And while in practice, the last thing that I'll say on this video, while in practice, please do write down any words, every word that you come across that you do not know, and make your own vocabulary list. And if you find that at the end of your practice, you're 2-3 weeks out, a month out, however long you're practicing for the SAT, if you find that it's the vocabulary questions that are causing you to not reach your goal score, then and only then would I suggest that you go out and find a list of vocabulary words. You can find them online fairly easily and for free, and start to really memorize those words and memorize the words that you've written down for yourself.